The 2022 Formula One season has left us on the front lines of some gruesome yet thrilling races. Unsurprisingly, Red Bull is topping the chart, with Verstappen in the #1 position. Yet when it comes to making strides in popular culture, Ricciardo is winning some top-tier podiums. And with F1's newly ignited commitment to save the planet through carbon neutrality, the league is gaining momentum for their E10 fuel. Now let's get started. Coming up first, what do we know about Daniel Ricciardo's new TV venture? Honestly, there's no reason to not become a fan of Formula One. Some jam-packed races, mind-blowing strides on laps, edge-cutting profanities on the radio, frenzy, and politics. What else could you ask for in a sport? And yes, we can't believe we're saying this for the millionth time. Yes, F1 is a sport. So many F1 fans only started to follow the league due to some piece of media, documentary, and TV show. That first rush that you see when a top-notch driver leaves the track blazed is incomparable. And watching the pit crew managing vehicle mechanics in real time is an experience on its own. After watching TV series like Drive to Survive, you're just left with one lingering feeling. F1 is more than a race. And that's exactly why Daniel Ricciardo is working on a new Hulu/Disney series. The McLaren racer has joined Temple Hill Entertainment to executively produce a TV series that'll closely mirror his own experiences with racing, rise to fame, and some heartbreaks. Wait, before you lose all of your excitement, this is not another biopic. Yep, come on. In this house, we love McLaren, and there's a dire need for less cocky F1 racers. So, naturally, we can't help but to stan Ricciardo. Definitely not a shade at Verstappen, but hey, the point is, biopics, if not done well, are boring, and we're ready to die on that hill. It's too early to comment if the TV series is going to be a hit or a miss. However, with Temple Hill Entertainment on board, we're leaning towards a hit. Okay, if this turns out to be a colossal failure, maybe don't quote us, okay? For the sake of keeping our excitement up, we're going to put our money on Temple Hill. Please, after 0 podiums for Ricciardo in the 2022 season, we deserve an inch of happiness. Besides, Temple Hill is responsible for giving us some entertaining hits, with movies like The Fault in Our Stars, The Maze Runner, First Man, Twilight, and so many more on their resume. Temple Hill knows what they're doing. Are you excited now? Now, let's talk about why some F1 fans are calling out Ricciardo for copying Lewis Hamilton. You know Lewis Hamilton, the all-time GOAT, the ultimate OG, and maybe the nicest guy to ever race on any F1 circuit, but sometimes his fans go too far. As soon as the news about Ricciardo's TV series hit the mainstream media, many Hamilton fans lost their cool. Not too long ago, we got to know that the legendary Mercedes racer is co-producing an F1-based movie with Apple, starring Brad Pitt. The details are a bit sketchy for now, but we're somewhat familiar with the plot. The movie is going to be about an accomplished F1 driver who comes out of retirement to mentor a rookie. And of course, in doing so, they're definitely going up against some Red Bull/Verstappen archetypes. Ricciardo's TV series doesn't follow a similar plot, but when the copycat accusations went too far, the man himself told the media that he isn't looking to compete with Hamilton's movie. Good call there, Ricciardo. Real competition and rivalry only exist on the tracks, and we all know that McLaren will hardly finish 5th this season, while Mercedes looks set for 3rd at least. So let's not get into a rivalry mess, folks. Ricciardo also mentioned that his series isn't designed to compete with Hamilton in any avenue. Not to mention, both Disney and Apple are very distinct in their marketing strategies and direction. Very subtly, Ricciardo also hinted that he isn't exactly cool with the comparisons fans are making between the two projects. It adds unnecessary pressure, and when you can enjoy both of the series, then what seems to be the beef? Coming up next, what's so unique about Ricciardo's Disney TV series? Let's not lie to ourselves. Competing with Drive to Survive won't be an easy feat for both Ricciardo and Hamilton. The Netflix docuseries did something that isn't easy to achieve. It generated a new surge of F1 fans who found appreciation for the sport in the most entertaining way. The increasing popularity and viewership for the sport is another Drive to Survive feat, and it's no surprise that Ricciardo is looking to achieve the same effect. His ultimate goal is just to give people a reason to love the sport. In fact, he's also specifically working on not adding any unrealistic, glamorous jizz to the show either. He's going to serve us the F1 experience as it is. No unnecessary dramatics and not a lot of last-minute miracles. And before you ask, Ricciardo isn't going to appear in the series, but he might make a cameo. And now, let's take an eco-friendly turn and talk about F1's sustainable fuel. First up, what's up with F1's E10 fuel and its environmental impact? After Qatar's colossal disaster to make the FIFA World Cup carbon neutral, F1 gave us some good news. F1 had made commitments to achieve net zero by 2030, but the E10 fuel wasn't cutting it for many climate activists. Even with a breakdown of 90% fossil fuel and 10% ethanol. Now the organization has revealed its plans to use a sustainable drop-in fuel by 2030 to achieve carbon neutrality. Now, we know what you're thinking. Isn't this the same sport that blows off 256,000 tons of carbon emissions per season? Well, all of your concerns are valid. Plus, that 10% ethanol wasn't doing much for the environment anyway. But many fans gave F1 a congratulatory hug for using E10, regardless of any results. Here's the thing though, E10 became a super failure for F1 when the cars started to burn fuel much quicker than the race engineers anticipated. Yep, at the end of the day, the cars were using more fuel than the initial plan, so all the environmental utilities went down the drain. After some well-deserved backlash, F1 decided to reevaluate its fuel options. F1 indeed has a lot of responsibilities to the teams and drivers for maintaining their speed and giving them the best possible tracks and circuits. But if by 2030 the environmental hazard of the sport becomes exponential, there might not be any future for the sport at all. Next up, is the drop-in fuel the ultimate solution for F1's environmental problem? Alright, before you start to label F1 as an ecologically responsible sport, hear us out. We know the urge to defend F1 in its environmental impact is super strong, but you gotta hear this one. Achieving carbon neutrality for a sport like F1 isn't easy, yet teams like McLaren have contributed to the noble cause by making serious replacements for their material use. So, is F1 on a similar trajectory? It's hard to say yes. Drop-in fuel is going to be a derivative of carbon capture, municipal waste, or non-food biomass. And before you ask, the organization hasn't provided any deets about how each component will be compressed as a fuel for the standard internal combustion. But it seems like that drop-in fuel is just another name for the sustainable aviation fuel that's made from non-fossil carbon sources. Yep, technically, F1 is just redirecting the carbon cycle to make use of resources that don't really add to the carbon emissions. Isn't this step synonymous with achieving carbon neutrality? We hate to disappoint you, but it's a hard no. Shortening the carbon cycle or reusing no fossil carbon is still the same as using carbon. Not to mention, using biomass to make this fuel isn't sustainable either. And if F1 proceeds to distillate synthetic plastic waste, it might just be adding to the carbon problem. However, the show must go on, and the speed must persist. 2030 isn't too far away. Now it's time for some other exciting news. Let's talk about how sustainability reports have exposed F1's faulty logistical system. What if we tell you that choosing a sustainable fuel to achieve carbon neutrality isn't a big deal at all? Fuel and combustion issues only contribute around 1% to F1's total carbon emission. Yep, and that's after all 21 Grand Prix. So, what seems to be the deciding factor of F1's environmental hazard? Believe it or not, the organization piles up its carbon emissions off track. Its biggest carbon footprint comes from the transportation of equipment, testing of cars, travel of teams and management personnel, and extravagant hotel stays. At the end of the day, moving equipment from one Grand Prix to another makes up almost 28% of F1's carbon footprint. Sustainability reports from independent climate fact checkers and activists have now rendered all F1's drop-in fuels less attractive and hopeful. The truth is, F1 hasn't made any strong enough case to achieve carbon neutrality in its logistical mechanism. And of course, as popular drivers like Hamilton and Ricciardo keep making TV series or movies to attract new audiences, the carbon footprints of spectators are not going to decrease anytime soon. Has F1 made any statement to carbon neutralize its audience by 2030? It's a hard no. Between speed and social responsibility, F1 hasn't made the best decisions, but as avid fans of the sport, our fingers are crossed. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about F1's decision to use sustainable fuel? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We'll see you in the next one.